Your ex wasn't crazy. Your love life is just a badly written sequel, and the original script was penned by your childhood. I can prove it. Stick around for the biggest twist, number 1. Because if you see yourself there, congratulations! You've already won half the battle. Even if you need a therapist on retainer just for emotional maintenance. Before we dive into the wreckage, quick question. Have you ever noticed you constantly run from the people who are actually good for you? Or that the moment things get serious, your panic button gets hit harder than a pinball machine? Buckle up, because we're about to psychoanalyze your dating history through the lens of your origin story. And yes, you can absolutely blame the first people who taught you about love for at least 70% of the confusion. You're 14 and all you want is an hour of privacy, but your parent isn't just checking in. They're basically a non-stop text chain of emotional surveillance. They didn't teach you independence. They taught you that their emotional stability was your job. Welcome to the anxious attachment style, where every unanswered text message feels like the end of the world. You're not just dating, you're an FBI agent analyzing the ellipsis marks in their texts. Wondering, they used a comma instead of an emoji. Are they plotting an escape? Here's the psychology. When parents hover like emotional drones, kids never get to experience the safety of leaving and returning. Your adult brain registers every temporary separation as a permanent abandonment. Your partner goes out with friends, and you're already rehearsing the tearful confrontation. The cruel irony is that your parents thought they were protecting you from pain, but they just equipped you with a black belt in neediness and a PhD in overthinking. You don't just love deeply. You love with the desperation of someone trying to merge bank accounts before the first date. The drawbridge defender now! Let's look at the parent who was physically in the room but emotionally on another continent. Maybe they were always working late, always distracted, or just masters of the emotional disappearing act. This creates the avoidant attachment style, where your internal motto is, I don't need anyone. Feelings are a liability. I'm basically a lone survivor with premium streaming services. But the kicker is, you do want connection, you're just utterly terrified of the risk it involves. So what happens? You flirt, then heat up, you panic, and you execute a flawless emotional escape maneuver, otherwise known as ghosting. Your dating life resembles a cartoon chase scene, running in and out of commitment until you trip over your own trust issues. The psychology is simple and brutal. If reliable emotional support didn't show up when you were a child, your mind stopped expecting it. Your brain learned that wanting people is a direct line to disappointment. Now, you're the person who insists I keep things casual, while secretly maintaining a mental ledger of every thoughtful thing your partner does. The drawbridge defender doesn't mean you can't love. It just means you love like you're playing emotional fencing, always ready to parry and keep people away. The eternal fixer. You were 9 years old, cooking dinner, handling family conflict, and maybe even acting as the primary emotional support for an adult. You weren't raised. You were appointed CEO of a household you didn't apply to manage. Fast forward to adulthood, and now you're the person who is everyone's unpaid life coach. You are scheduling your partner's car repairs, sorting out their career crises, and somehow becoming the emotional customer service desk for everyone you care about. This is compulsive caregiving. The fundamental pattern is this. You only feel safe when you are needed. If your partner isn't experiencing some kind of crisis, your inner child panics. Wait, if I'm not fixing them, why would they keep me? So, you unconsciously attract projects, not partners. You date people who need saving because that is the only kind of love that feels familiar. It's transactional and has a clearly defined purpose. Meanwhile, your own emotional needs are locked in an imaginary basement, banging on the pipes for attention. The cruelest irony is that you are valued by many, but you rarely feel loved for just being yourself. Because vulnerability feels selfish when your childhood taught you that your feelings were secondary to keeping the family structure upright. The human yes man. Some children weren't raised to have feelings. They were raised to maintain the peace. Your sole job was to be agreeable, compliant, and never ever rock the boat. You were a child with the emotional capacity of a professional diplomat. This creates the classic people-pleaser love style, also known as fawning behavior. You agree to everything. Their favorite band, their weekend plans, their dreadful Netflix queue. Even if every fiber of your being screams no. At first, people-pleasing looks like devotion. It's sweet and accommodating. But eventually, you wake up next to your partner realizing you have absolutely no idea what you actually want. And when you finally manage to voice a boundary, your partner is completely blindsided because they genuinely thought you loved those 4-hour sports debates. The darkest part, you end up deeply resenting the very people you bent yourself into a pretzel to please. Because what you really wanted was for someone to notice you were folding in half. Instead, they just thought you were exceptionally flexible. The jester's mask. Your childhood was a carnival. Lots of surface laughter, lots of jokes, and absolutely zero room for heavy, serious emotion. Every time you try to bring up a real problem, you got a punchline instead of a hug. So now you use humor as a kind of emotional armor. You're the partner who makes a wisecrack during a serious argument, or who hides their "I'm not okay" behind a sarcastic "lol, I'm fantastic." Psychologists call this emotional deflection. Using comedy as a shield against true vulnerability. It can be charming at first. Who doesn't love someone who can lighten the mood? But here's the downside. Your partner never gets to meet the real you. Every time you approach the emotional edge, you pull a verbal magic trick and turn the sentiment into a joke. Eventually, the person who loves you starts to feel like they're dating a stand-up comedian instead of a fully dimensional human being. The laughter never quite manages to cover the profound silence underneath. And deep down, you're terrified that if you drop the mask, you'll be rejected for being too much. The self-sacrificial martyr. I'm not talking about the fairy tale. I'm talking about the emotional labor. You grew up doing disproportionate chores, handling responsibilities way beyond your age, while others coasted. You were the unpaid emotional intern of your own household. This wires you for self-sacrificial caregiving. You attract relationships where you feel obligated to do 90% of the emotional and practical work, while your partner coasts through life. The most messed up part is that if you're not doing all the heavy lifting, you feel deeply guilty, like you're cheating at love. But here's the real kicker. People who are conditioned this way often don't know how to receive care. When someone treats you with simple kindness, you squirm. It feels profoundly wrong. Your childhood taught you that love is earned through tireless, often painful effort, not freely given. So, you unconsciously push away healthy, stable partners while staying committed to the ones who desperately need saving. You think you're being strong, but you're just constantly auditioning to be someone's live-in life coach. A happy ending shouldn't feel like a full-time job with no benefits. The myth of the secure base. Yes, they actually exist. Some people had parents who were supportive without being intrusive, affectionate without being overwhelming, and consistent without being perfect robots. These kids were allowed to make mistakes, talk about their big feelings, and still know without a shadow of a doubt that they were deeply loved. These individuals grow into securely attached adults. They trust their partners, they communicate like actual adults, and they don't assume a late text message means they've been abandoned. They can be close and independent because their nervous systems learn that love is a safe harbor, not a haunted house. Rewriting the script. Now, before you curse your entire childhood and spiral into existential dread, here is the plot twist. Love styles are not permanent. Even if you grew up with chaos, neglect, or emotional distance, your brain can rewire. Therapy, self-awareness, and intentional healthy relationships are the tools we use to swap out that old toxic script. The secure base isn't just something you're born with. It's something you can build. And if you're listening to this, you're halfway there. Because step 1 of rewriting your entire love story is recognizing the pattern you're in. So, which one are you? Drop a comment below. Bonus points if you can self-diagnose and roast yourself a little in the process. If this video made you feel personally attacked, congratulations. Self-awareness is the first step to a genuinely happy relationship.